views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Good evening and welcome to Bronxtalk. Soon, York Studios will be moving to an 11-acre site on Story Avenue, north of Soundview Park. Also, via the latest stats, we have learned, as reported by DNA Info, that the Bronx has had the largest increase in film permits issued than any other borough. So it is safe to say filmmaking is a growing industry in the Bronx. And given the legendary creative inspiration of Bronxites in many different forms of art, it is no surprise that a couple of weeks ago, the Bronx Museum held a Bronx Film Festival called Made in the Bronx, featuring Bronx filmmakers. And tonight we'll give you a look at some of those films. We'll meet some of the filmmakers and give us all an opportunity to appreciate wonderful Bronx talent. It's also important to note that the phones are open, so to comment on the films, to talk to the filmmakers, you can call in at 718-960-7261 or send an email to us at bronxtalk@bronxnet.org, or you post it on our Facebook page and we'll read it on the air during a future edition of our program. For the here and now, a filmmaker who heads up the group The Bronx Filmmakers. That's who put on the show at the museum. It's Hannah LaShaw. Good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
And one of the filmmakers, one of the other filmmakers, it's Zeph Kota. Good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Gary. It's a pleasure to be here.
Hannah, let's just start with the Bronx Filmmakers.
Sure.
It's a collective. It's people who work together. Explain what it is and how it is and why we got to putting it together.
It is a collective of filmmakers who live and work in the Bronx, both narrative, that is fictional films that have a script, and documentary, which obviously are just slice of life films. And we are basically a work group. We are a group of people that support each other's projects. We don't have group projects. We're all individually working. But it's important to have a community to bounce ideas off of, look at rough cuts, get feedback on scripts, those kinds of things. And that's what this is. This is a group that is all about getting in the trenches and supporting each other.
How many filmmakers are there? I guess a two-part question. Number one, how many filmmakers are there in the group? And number two, do you constantly look for them? Do they tend to find you? You know, do we give us the range of what the film making industry, even at the amateur level, if you will, looks like in the Bronx?
We have about 20 active members, and we are all sort of at the emerging portion of our career. Unfortunately, it's still true that once a filmmaker sort of makes it big, they leave the Bronx. We hope that changes.
No, say it ain't so.
We hope they will in the future just stay here and keep making films, but to date that's not been the pattern. So our members tend to be filmmakers who are just getting off the ground. They've either only made shorts or they're just making their first or second features now. Mm-hmm. And we don't really advertise, actually. People do find us. We do have a couple of membership requirements, so you can't just think film is cool. You have to actually have made a project in order to be considered. But beyond that, we're just looking for people who are serious about improving their skill set.
Given the complexity of what it takes, now folks, you know, a lot of people want to shoot video. BronxNet certainly has a wonderful program to teach people how to do TV and, you know, all those TV production and all those kinds of things. Making a film, a real movie, is a complex thing. It's not like you, I mean, I was thinking as I was watching some of the films that we're going to show tonight, actors and writers and, you know, from the lighting and all the things that you would see in a big film, you still have to do in a small film. Do you support those kinds of things, or is it kind of thing that, oh, well, I know a good set designer, so I'll, you know, and then you all kind of work together? How does that work? He's nodding yes. We'll get to him. But
we don't support in terms of financial. We don't have any grants. We don't have any overhead.
Would that be available?
Yeah, that would be fantastic, but that's a whole other set of situations. We are all busy working on our films, so there's not like we aren't a group that's running for the sake of being a group.
Right. You meet regularly or just simply communicate like we all can now through emails and everything
Well,
else?
we do communicate via email, but we
sure
do
you
have
do.
to meet regularly as well. When you're screening a rough cut, we need to all be in the same place looking at the screen. We actually meet at the Bronx Documentary Center, which has, since we were founded in 2012, has offered us free space just because they want to encourage artists to meet and collaborate.
Before I get to the gentleman sitting to
Yes.
your right, who is apparently very prolific.
He is.
How much material do we turn out, or at least does this group turn out? Like a lot? Like every week you get another film from
Oh,
somebody?
no. It does not. A week.
Oh, right.
That's
I do a
actually-
show every week.
Yeah, it takes months to write the script, to cast
Right.
it, to put the crew together, and then shooting it is its own set of circumstances. So
Right.
no, we are not churning out content in that way. And I think that's a good thing. I think we do need to not only think about how fast we put stuff out, but the quality that we're producing.
And I'm pleased to report, and you're going to find out, that the quality of the work is just wonderful, and that's why we took the time to do it. Seth, just your background in filmmaking, and then we'll talk about how prolific you are.
Sure. Well, my trajectory into film came from, it's kind of an unorthodox path, I guess, because I was originally an iron worker and I had a welding shop here in the Bronx. And
Oh, I can see how that leads to filmmaking.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
And, I just kind of had an epiphany at a certain point that life is not just about,
Welding.
welding and making money. It's I always had an interest in cinema, so I decided to convert my welding shop into a film studio.
And how long have you been at it?
For the past 6.5 years, really.
And you were telling me, remind me of some of the numbers. You're turning out a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I've done 9 short films in that period of time, and I just finished my first feature film that's in post-production, and I'm already prepping the next one, really.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to show a couple of them. What's the most difficult aspect of this for you? I mean, and I want to marry that to the question of how much do you do? Like, you're a filmmaker.
Right.
Do you do the writing? Do you do the conceptualization? Do you
Sure.
produce it as well? Do you say, I'll run the camera because nobody else gets the idea? I mean,
Yeah.
how involved are you in those little things?
That's a great question, because especially in the early days as an independent filmmaker, you have to wear all those hats. So you're writing, you're directing, you're producing, you're having your family make meals, pack sandwiches for the crew. But ideally, as you kind of progress, you do want to have people that are specialized in each of those roles. You do want to have a cinematographer that's dedicated.
Real quick, because I want to get to some of the films, because we have so much
Sure.
to show in very little time. You pay everybody, or some of it is just on kind of like
A little
this-
bit of both. Some of it you're doing favors for each other, and then some of it is, there's no way around it. You have to pay.
That's where the collective comes in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Give us a 15-second introduction to the clip we're going to show from the People Watchers. Tell me about the People Watchers.
All right, so the People Watchers is about a guy and a girl that are on a stoop in Manhattan, and they're making observations about people walking down the street, and it kind of goes into the storylines of the observations that they're making.
I don't want to give a lot away, but it's kind of like it kind of comes true, or at least it's played out in front of you. You take many liberties with the
Right,
notion of what film
exactly.
is. All right, so this is from Zev Koda, a short clip from the People Watchers.
See that guy over there in the blazer with the pendant around his neck?
Yeah.
See that woman walking about 10 feet behind him in the hat? She's a hit woman. He has no idea, but today is the day he's gonna die.
All right, we'll give you a little applause there. Right? Everybody like that? And there's so much more in it. to me, on some levels, obviously you shoot a short film, so it takes you a little less time than shooting a long film. It must be somewhat a challenge to really get a whole story. It's like a short story writer has to write a whole story in that short period of time.
In some ways, it's more challenging because you're trying to convey so much information in such a short amount of time that sometimes in a feature length, you could kind of let that story breathe.
And so this feature-length film, you're pretty excited about it.
Very.
Tell me about The Trouble.
Okay, so The Trouble is, we're calling it an urban Western, and it's kind of our take on a Western, except for Monument Valley, it's in the South Bronx, and instead of guys on horseback, it's guys on motorcycles. So, you know, it's a kind of a character-driven piece, you know,
And after it gets out there, you said it was still in post-production, will people be able to see it? What happens?
Absolutely, and they can find out more information from our website,
which is, call out the website.
AlphabetCityFilms.com.
AlphabetCityFilms.com. Okay, so The Trouble, this is just the trailer from The Trouble.
Yeah.
Zev Koda's new film coming out, first airing ever, right?
Yes.
All right, the premiere, The Trouble.
So, you know how I told you I'm going to these underground poker games now, right?
What, the websites? I thought those all got shut down.
Websites are all donezo. That's why I switched to offline poker. No limit Texas Hold'em.
Jesus, Billy. Let me guess. You've lost everything but your shirt. And now I'm gonna have to cover your rent for who knows how long.
Not exactly. It's way worse.
Cowboy went riding out one dark and windy day. On the ridge he rested as he went along his way. One all at once a mighty herd of red-eyed steer he saw, plowing through the ragged sky and up the cloudy draw. Their brands were still on fire and their hooves were made of steel. Horns were black and shiny and their hot breath he could feel. But fear went through them as they thundered through the sky. Saw the riders coming hard and heard their mournful cry. Yippee-yi-oh, yippee-yi-yay. Ghost riders in the sky.
All right, there it is, The Trouble, the first world premiere, as it were.
Thank you.
Lighting is an issue on this thing. This is a full production.
Right. It is a full production, and lighting is always something that is important, and it takes time.
You got to fully understand it. Folks may recognize various Bronx scenes. The poker chip scene was in Pelham Bay, and the rest in the South Bronx.
Right. Exactly.
So it's a hometown film. For you, talk to me about just the challenge of conceptualizing a film like what Zev has done, and we're going to show your stuff as well. Do you wake up in the morning and you say, "Hi, got it. That's the film I'm going to do," or
Sometimes.
Sometimes, really.
Yeah, or sometimes it's a scene that's sort of disconnected from everything else, but you see certain character interactions and then you build out from there.
Are there parts of it, now we talked with Zev about the different aspects of filmmaking that he either does or doesn't. Are there aspects of this that you really like or don't like, or both?
I love the writing and the directing.
So do you hire a writer or
No,
you write it?
I'm writing all my own stuff.
Right.
And I do not enjoy the producing, but I have been a co-producer on everything just because that's the nature of independent film.
Tell me about the clip. I love this film, and we're only going to show 2 minutes of a much longer piece, this blindsided thing.
Yes.
Tell me about that piece. It's a compelling piece, and you're only going to see 2 minutes, but it's really good.
Yeah, it's a thriller type short film. It's directed by Mark Cabroy, who is a Bronx filmmaker and a former Brio winner, in fact. He did not write it. He was trying to expand his skill set, and so he specifically looked to find another script, because it's a different skill set when you're directing your own words versus someone else's. And so he was looking. He had only done his own work before, and so he found this script, loved it, and put together an amazing team.
It's a stunning piece, and
is.
do we know how long it took him to shoot it? Because it's so well done.
I believe it was about 4 or 5 days.
Oh my goodness! I mean, you're looking at it, and it's like 9 minutes long.
Yes.
But the lighting and the tension, and so I'm just gonna. I think this little clip explains it. So
Yes.
drum roll, ladies and gentlemen. Blindsided.
I'm sorry I wasn't able to be of more help today, Detective.
You did a lot. At least now we know who we're looking for. But we do need to get this guy, especially if you think he might have a hostage with him.
I keep getting this impression of a woman being held against her will.
Well, thanks again. You did a great job today, Miss St. John's.
Call me Carly. You're gonna get this guy sooner than you think. Good night, Detective Rosinski.
Good night, Miss St. John's. We'll see you in the morning.
That is Blindsided. We all know what happens in it. Now, is there a place that people can see those kinds of things?
We, on our site, on Bronx Filmmakers, it's bronxfilmmakers.org. We have links to all of our filmmakers.
The Bronx Filmmakers or just Bronx Filmmakers?
The Bronx Filmmakers.
TheBronxFilmmakers.org.
Yes. And all of our filmmakers have their bios there and links to their own pages where their work is.
You got to see all these films. I mean, I don't want to pick out one. I happen to like that one. I like Zeph's work. I liked Hannah's work. You got to see them all. So go to thebronxfilmmakers.org and see them. Okay, so now for you, this is yet another stunning piece, and I want to make sure we have enough time. So why don't you give me a little introduction about Write With Me? Because not only did it involve the writing of the film, it involved the writing of music, actually,
That's
too.
true.
So a little background, if you would.
It's part of a series of short films that look at intimacy in a variety of relationships.
That you have done.
That I have done. And this relationship that I'm exploring here is the creative collaboration. It's not one we normally think of as being intimate, but it in fact really is. Because when you show your work to someone, there's a level of vulnerability there that sort of breeds intimacy.
For anybody who has been a creative person, whether it be a visual artist or a writer, and certainly if they're not used to it, there is always this, I don't know if I want to show it to anybody, and this captures it just beautifully. So, without further ado, Hannah LaShaw and Write With Me.
I like this one. But
read them to me.
I travel this world without any cover, moving so that nothing touches my skin. I struggle to maintain a strong, solid form, but the shame is crushing me from within. I pull myself tight and push them all out, unsure how much longer I can last. I am dissolving little by little, watching my blurred lies slide past. I'm better before you know me, better before you see. I'm not enough, I'm too much, I don't know how to be. I'm better before you know me, better before you see. I'm too hard, I'm too soft, you cannot love me.
It's beautiful.
Really?
Yes, really. How about we start with the chorus?
I've never really done this before, so I'm not sure.
No worries, no pressure, and we can keep trying. All right, what do you think about this for a melody? I'm better before you know me, better before you see. Be honest, I can take it.
Really? Because I can't. Okay, fine. I think it's a little bit dark.
Okay. I'm better before you know me, better before you see me. That's not right. I'm better before you know me, better before you see. I'm not enough, I'm too much, I don't know how to be.
Yeah, I like that. It's resigned, but not sad.
Well, let's try the whole chorus from the top. I'm better before you know me, better before you see. I'm not enough, I'm too much, I don't know how to be. I'm better before you know me, better before you see. I'm too hard, I'm too soft, you cannot love me.
All right, we applauded the others. We'll applaud Hannah LaShaw and Write With Me. The writing of the music, you wrote the music? Somebody else wrote the music?
My father wrote the music.
Wow.
My father, who is from the Bronx, born and raised in the Bronx, is a musician, mostly jazz and klezmer, but for this, he was able to work with me.
And you know, we took the time to show a longer clip because I really wanted to show the music. So let's tally this up. Where is the film industry at in the Bronx for amateur filmmakers? If you'd like to be a filmmaker, if you are a filmmaker, What do you do? How do you get started? Give me some of that.
We actually, and this is true for most of our members, we encourage, if you have not taken a class at all, to take the field production class at BronxNet. It's a good sort of starting point.
Wow, I didn't know we were going there, but I certainly would
You know,
support
it is
that.
what we tell people, because you sort of get to touch the camera, you get to think about what you want to do, make a short project, and then once you've made a short project, you can join our group.
I hadn't asked you, how long have you been making films? A long time?
Just a few years. No, this is his second career. 2 or 3 years.
Do you have designs, for instance, what Zeph did, and create a feature film?
I am in development on my feature film, yes.
Can you tell us what it's about?
I can. It is about a 15-year-old Bronx teenager who is desperate to escape her father's sexual abuse, but will do anything not to leave her 2 little sisters behind. It's called Amara 15. It is in development, and we actually did just win a screenwriting prize for the script itself.
You have titillated all of us and inspired all of us about the beauty of Bronx filmmaking. And again, we go to thebronxfilmmakers.org, and we can see Zeph's work, we can see your work, and the work of some of the others that we saw tonight. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having us.
And folks, if you have further questions or comments on anything you heard on tonight's show or anything going on in the Bronx, you could send us an email or put it in our Facebook page, and we'll try and get them on the air during a future edition of our program. We ask you to like Bronx Talk on Facebook. You can check out the archives at bronxnet.org. You'll find Bronx Talk on the lower right navigation bar. Now, we got a lot of good shows coming up. All our shows are good, you know that. Next week, we delve into the scourge of gangs in the Bronx and the recent arrest of 120 alleged gang members. Then the week after, on May 16th, it will be the city's public advocate, Letitia James. On May 23rd, a unique show about those in the Bronx who are first in their families to graduate. On May 30th, a show featuring a wonderful school concert band from PS 76. On June 6th, providing analysis of the expansion of UPK in the city. So a lot of good stuff coming up. And we thank our producer, Jayla Juberas, director is Shirley Arietta, and Neilani's been working so hard, the cast of thousands here, the cast of thousands that work on your films, and we'll see you next week. Good night.
Hello, good people of the Bronx and beyond. Welcome to A Life in Art.